welcome back to my channel for another edit with me. Yay! My name is Kaylee and I am a Florida film photographer specializing in weddings and portraits for old souls and joyful hearts. As per usual, I'm glad you're here today because this video is part of a weekly series where I edit scans from sessions and weddings in chronological order so you can see my journey in film from beginning to now. I hope that each session in this series will teach you something new about shooting in film because I'll be sharing my wins and my whoopsies along the way. Let's dive in. Okay, so here we have a session with some friends of mine. This is Emily and John David. This was their first anniversary shoot, and this was taken a few years ago, so they've been married for a couple of years now, but back then when we did the session, they were married for about a year, and they were so gracious to model for me. This was one of my first, styled shoots with a vision, I guess, or one of my first film sessions, I guess, where I shot completely in film and had a really specific vision for it, and so they met with me, and I was so grateful that they did. Again, at this point, I'm still not shooting with a light meter, so you'll see that there are plenty of photos here that are okay exposed. They're well lit and well exposed, and then others that are not great because I was not using a light meter, and I was just sort of flying by the seat of my pants at this point with film. So let's go ahead and jump in, and we will talk about some of these images as we develop them, or as we edit them, because there's 10 images and we need to get popping. All right, so I love this. This was shot with all these other images, was shot on my Elan 2E, mounted with a Nifty 50. And I was kind of surprised that my Nifty 50 was able to kind of get this depth of field, because it does go down to 1.8, but you can't get super close like a macro lens with a Nifty 50. So I'm kind of surprised that this turned out the way it did with some pretty bokeh and with the ring in focus. So I really love this shot. I've always loved this shot. So, okay, let's go to my presets here. I'm going to just see what they look like with warm. And, I think this looks pretty cool, but I'm just going to go with my first basic preset. If you've been here for any length of time, you know that my main components that I like to adjust are my brightness, or add what we call pop. That's what a lot of people call it. It's what I call it. Just add some pop. My highlights are brighter, and my shadows and darker points are a little bit more muted. And then I also like to make sure that my color is a little bit more saturated and kind of tweaked the way that I like it. I can't describe exactly what I like about my color because I shoot on a warm film, and then I tend to kind of warm it up a little bit for the most part, but there are some times where I don't warm it up at all and actually cool it off a little. So I don't know. I'm just kind of nitpicky sometimes with my film. So we're at 60. Let's see. I need my keyboard here. So I'm going to actually move this exposure up 2 clicks to 80%. If I go up any higher than that, I start to lose my highlights. So I'm going to keep it at 80. Bring my contrast up just a little. And what was I going to do here? I was going to add a little bit of pop. I was going to bring my highlights down and pop those lights just to make that ring stand out. Oh, so pretty. And then lastly is my color. What did I do before? Let's see. I'm going to add a little bit of warmth. Actually, I'm going to make that a little less. It's kind of trial and error around here. I know what look I'm going for, but sometimes it's just takes a little bit of tweaking and clicking and dragging. So, and maybe bring up my magenta just a tad bit. Okay, and I think that's it. So if you're following along, I gave it some pop down here in my tone curve, and then I adjusted my color in my temperature and temp sliders. So that's it. Here's the before and after. So fun. Okay, next is this image. Oh, I love this image. So I'm going to reset this. I was playing with it before the video started. Let's go ahead and add the basic preset. And again, I'm going to click this up to 80, bring my contrast up a little more, and she's a little bit in danger of losing some of the detail, like right here on her dress here, and it's actually a really pretty pink, in which I'm fine with it being a lighter pastel-y color and not being so pink, but at this point I'm going to just adjust my color here. So I'm going to do 5 clicks of warmth and 5 clicks of magenta. And then lastly, I'm going to give it that pop by dragging down my highlight slider and only bringing up my lights just a little bit. Okay, That looks good, and I love what I did here with my warmth slider, because you can finally see that they're in like a sunset type of situation, and you can see that the rocks over here are starting to shine from the sunset a little bit over to their right and your left over this way. So I really like that. And not much change, but big difference to me. I like it. Okay, ooh, I'm excited about this one. Add my preset. I'm going to push it to, I'm actually going to push this up a little more. I'm going to push this to 90. Bring my contrast up to 45. And already that looks so pretty. It looks so good, just like this. But I'm going to modify my color a little. It's looking a little bit green to me. It's fine on warmth as it is right now, but it's looking a little bit green, so I'm going to up the magenta by 5 clicks here and just see what I get. Okay, and then adjust my warmth by 5 clicks. I think the magenta is really helping. I'm going to keep on pushing that and see what happens. Okay, yeah, she's looking like she has a little bit more color to her cheeks. I know sometimes warmth brings color to people's cheeks, but sometimes you need a little bit of magenta and a little less green to bring out that really beautiful natural color. And then lastly, I'm only going to do just a small bit of that pop that I love so much. Okay, that looks good to me. I love how her whites are retained. She's not blown out at any point. You can see the sun touching their faces and her hair over here on their right, our left. I love that. That's really pretty. So I'm actually going to copy these settings and paste it into image number 9 over here, because this is in the exact same location and I want to see how that looks. Ooh, quick and easy. I like. I'm going to bring down the magenta by like a couple of clicks because it looked a little bit red to me. Yeah. Okay, that looks good. All right, so 3 and 9 are done. Ooh, I love this image. Okay, basic preset and warm. I think warm looks cool, but warm looks cool. Photography joke. It looks pretty neat, but I'm going to stick with my basic preset here. I'm going to push this to 100 and also bring my contrast up. Work on my highlights over here because it's really bright over here, but I'm okay with it being a little bit on the brighter side. So, I do raise my exposure and whatnot. So I'm going to be okay with it being over here. I'm going to pull up my shadows just a little. I usually don't do this with film scans like this, especially Portra, because Portra is really good at retaining some detail in their shadows, but for some reason, maybe because I get my scans developed at a regular size, if I were to bring up my shadows and my blacks, you start to really see the grain. So I try to keep my shadows and my blacks kind of low and not try and push them too much. So brought those shadows up just a little. Okay, now for my color, I'm going to push 3 clicks, and then maybe 5 clicks of magenta. Yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah, this is one of those sessions where I only add a little bit of warmth because Portra is a naturally warm film, and I don't feel like I need to do too much with my temperature and tint on this particular one. So, okay, there we go. There's my before and my after. So cool. Actually, what did I do? I forgot. Let me go back to this. I'm sorry for jumping around here for a second. I remember I wanted to add 2 clicks of saturation here. Okay. Yep, there we go. I wanted to upper saturation. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to do the same on this other image. I know I jump back and forth. I appreciate you sticking with me. I don't want to forget anything. Okay, so Les Sai. This was one of those images that I had great plans for, but alas, I was not using a light meter and it worked against me in this situation. It was an overcast day that day, and we were at this historic fort type location, and as you can see, it's really, really old. You can tell the bricks behind it are very, very old and covered in some natural substances, and whatnot, but I tried to put them in this shady kind of alcove type place, and you can see the light is coming in really strong from their left, my right, and it just didn't work. Yeah, it just didn't work for me. I didn't get what I wanted, and of course the lesson I learned here is that I learned that Portra is a contrasty film. It's heavy on contrast. And for the most part, I shouldn't try and hide in the shade like this if it's an overcast day outside. So this was one of the situations where I really learned the nuances of Portra 400. You can definitely tell that this is Portra 400, not Fuji, because of the heaviness of the shadows and the brightness of the whites, and it's not a very neutral image. It's a very heavy image. So I don't think that I can do much to this, so I'm just going to add my regular preset. Maybe take my magenta down 2 clicks and my warmth down 2 clicks, and saturation up 2. And honestly, that's it. Like, I wouldn't do really anything else to this image because her whites are so bright and the shadows are so deep. So, lesson learned with Portra. Don't hide in further shadows if it's an overcast day, if you're shooting Portra 400. Lesson learned. Okay, image number 2, where this was not exactly what I thought it would be. This is a beautifully composed image, and it had the potential to be a really, really great image, but, you know, sound like a broken record. I wasn't shooting with a light meter, and it's so important to use a light meter in many situations. I think that my experience with Portra 400 justifies that you don't have to use a light meter all the time if you don't want to, but I think for many, many situations, if you're a creative photographer and you're starting out with film and you're just learning all of the characteristics and nuances of different film stocks, I think it's really important to use a light meter so that you can properly expose your images and get the most out of the rolls of film that you are investing in. So I don't think there's much I can do with this image. I have my basic preset here and my warm preset here, and honestly I don't really like either of them because if I use my basic preset, I lose my color and my integrity of my sun back here. In order for me to get their foreground a little bit lighter. So I guess I'm going to try my second preset here to warm it up a little bit because that actually kind of enhances the sun and enhances the color a little bit. And I'm not going to really do much else because I won't like whatever else I do. So this is a session that's years old, and I can remember editing this session back in the day and thinking I was so disappointed at how little I could do to this image, but really pleased with what I could do with it. So happy note here, lesson learned, and here we go. Alright, this is another pretty image. I composed this before they got here. Like, I knew that I wanted to have these little sidewalks and these little grids like this with the house in the background. So preset 1, preset 2. I'm going to do preset 2 right here because I think it adds a little bit of integrity back into the sky up here, and you can see the shape of the clouds a lot better. Let's see. I'm going to up my exposure by a click. Excuse me, I contrast a couple of clicks. And then the only thing that I really wanted to do here was add a little bit of magenta because the green grass is kind of bouncing back up on them. Even in the unedited one, you could see the grass was pretty green, and it was bouncing back up onto their neutral colored clothes here. So clothes. And yeah, I'm just going to keep it at 10 for that. And maybe 3 clicks for warmth. Yep, and I think I'm good with that, before and after. I think that's actually a really unique kind of pretty. My highlights are really muted, and there's not a lot of heavy spots on this image, so it looks kind of like a lighter image almost. Kind of could be mistaken for Fuji if you're not careful. I like this. Okay, next is another image that I think turned out fine, but I think would have turned out way better if I would have used a light meter. But all the same, it turned out fine. I'm satisfied with this, and I'm going to crop out this little stone wall back here. And let's go back to that right there. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, so all I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply my preset. It got a little green, so I'm going to add some magenta here. And then not much warmth because she's already looking a little yellow in her shadows here and in the highlights. Bring my highlights down a little, and then perhaps add pop because this is the great image to add pop for because there's already such hot highlights and deep shadows, and I like it a lot. and then maybe a little bit of saturation, and that's it. Looks good to me. Okay, and we already did this one, which was super pretty. And then lastly, this one. So this looks like a really great image, and it is. But if we've learned anything about Portra at this point, it's that on overcast days, it performs up to standard. It does what you want it to do, but I can't really edit according to my personal style here because my highlights are a little bit too hot and my shadows are a little too deep. So if you're ever in a situation where if it's not your style and you're shooting Portra 400 in a less than ideal situation, I would try your best to be aware of where your light is coming from, where your shadows are, what kind of background you're up against, and just really take time and slow down, because it's really worth it when you take some time and slow down. I think I rushed through this image because this was near the end of the shoot, and we had already spent like an hour, maybe an hour and a half here. I'd burned through like 2 or 3 rolls of film already, and we were just ready to go, and I had a long drive home. So I kind of rushed through this and didn't take my time, and I got a subpar image out of it. So preset 1, preset 2, let's do my basic preset, and no, those highlights are going to be too hot. Bring the highlights down. But again, I don't want to sound too preachy and tell you all about Portra. You can shoot some for yourself and learn it for yourself, but I would love to see you succeed and see you do well. So I hope you learned something from my experiences. Let's see what the computer says. Looks, ugh, nope. Okay, let's bring down our warmth just a little, maybe 5 clicks. Magenta, up by 2. Yeah, I'm not really liking any of these adjustments here. So let's see what it looks like if I up both of those. Yeah, I don't like it. Oops. I don't want to undo that. I just want to undo this. Yeah, I'll just probably leave it like this for now because I can't really do much with this to enhance it in the way of making it a little bit more neutral. So, all right, I think I'm done with that. And there's the before and the after. A little pop, and didn't really change the color on this one. Okay, so let's look at all of our images, the finished result. 1, 2, 3, so pretty. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, everybody, thanks again for joining me. I am super grateful that you have taken out a little bit of time from your day and given it to me. I so appreciate it. I hope you're learning something from these videos. Leave me a comment or a message, or follow me on Instagram at Kaylee Trippett. All that will be linked below. And I've also added a new service and a new feature to my webpage. Hashtag shameless plug. I am offering or reintroducing and reoffering mentoring sessions. So if you live in Florida or in the South Florida area, or you have any business questions that you can have a video chat regarding, or if you're looking for a long-term mentor, I have a link down below to guide you towards some more information about that. If you are just wanting to shoot in more film or just take your business to the next level, shoot me an email. I would love to talk with you about how I can serve you and how I can help you. So everything is linked below. I am so glad that you joined me today, and I will see you next week.